At 2 a.m., my stepbrother stabbed me. My parents laughed until the judge read his sentence. Hi, I'm Jocelyn. You know how people always say blood is thicker than water? Well, what they don't tell you is that sometimes the people who share your roof are the ones who want you buried beneath it. I learned that lesson at exactly 2:17 a.m. on a Thursday, but the warning signs had been screaming at me for months. Jocelyn, you're being paranoid again, my mom Linda said over dinner, dismissing me with a wave of her fork when I mentioned Brandon had been in my room. He was just looking for his phone charger. You probably grabbed it by mistake. I set down my water glass, my appetite gone. And why was my dresser drawer open? The one where I keep my journal? Brandon, my stepbrother of 2 years, gave that easy smile that always melted my mom's defenses. I knocked 3 times, Joss. You were blasting that music like always. I bumped into your furniture looking for an outlet in the dark. See? An explanation for everything, a reason, an excuse. My stepdad, Philip, nodded approvingly from the head of the table. Jocelyn, you need to stop being so suspicious. We're a family unit now. Families trust each other. That conversation haunted me as I sat across from my best friend Valerie at our usual booth at the Riverside Diner the next afternoon. The smell of fresh coffee and apple pie filled the air, but I couldn't shake the knot in my stomach. Your mom always takes his side, Valerie said, stirring her iced latte so aggressively the spoon clinked against the glass. It's like she married Philip and forgot you even exist. Yesterday, I noticed my prescription sleep medication was missing pills, I said quietly, watching a family laugh at the booth across from us. When I brought it up, Mom suggested I was taking them and blacking out the memory. Valerie's hazel eyes went wide. That's textbook manipulation, Joss. That's literally gaslighting. Brandon said maybe I miscounted. Philip and Mom just nodded along like he's got a medical degree from Johns Hopkins or something. Have you considered getting a lock installed on your bedroom door? Valerie leaned forward, her dark curls falling over her shoulders. I lowered my voice. Philip has this rule. No locked doors in his house because families don't hide things from each other. I did my best impression of his deep, authoritative tone. That's a massive red flag, Joss. Valerie's expression turned serious. What about setting up some kind of security? Like a camera? That's actually not the worst idea. I took a long sip of my cappuccino, thinking. I still have my old iPhone from sophomore year. It still works. Do it tonight. Something about this whole situation feels wrong. Really wrong. I set up that camera. 3 days later at 1:47 a.m., it captured Brandon entering my room, going through my backpack, taking $40 from my wallet, reading pages of my journal, and most disturbingly, standing at the foot of my bed watching me sleep for almost 7 minutes. I showed the footage to Valerie the next day at her apartment in the Meadowbrook complex. Jocelyn, this is beyond disturbing. Her hands shook as she held my phone. You need to show your mom immediately. Like, right now. You really think she'll believe me this time, even with video evidence? She has to. It's right there on screen. There's no talking his way out of this. I nodded, though dread pooled in my stomach like ice water. I'll show them tonight after dinner. Call or text me the second it's over, okay? I don't care if it's 3 in the morning. That evening, I connected my old iPhone to the living room TV while Mom and Philip settled onto their leather sectional. The evening news played in the background. What's this about, Jocelyn? Mom sighed heavily. We were about to watch Yellowstone. There's something you both need to see. It's about Brandon. Philip's jaw tightened immediately, his posture going rigid. If this is more of your accusations against my son, just watch. I hit play. The video filled the 55-inch screen, the timestamp, Brandon's face clearly visible, his hands in my things, standing over me while I slept, completely vulnerable. The silence afterward was suffocating. Philip spoke first, his voice cold. This proves absolutely nothing. He was obviously looking for something you borrowed and didn't return. My heart dropped. My belongings in my room? And what possible explanation is there for him standing over me, watching me sleep? Mom looked uncomfortable but said, "You've always been jealous of the attention Brandon gets from Philip. This is manipulative, Jocelyn. Setting up hidden cameras to frame him." The room spun. "Are you actually serious right now? Did you watch the same video I just showed you?" "We're done discussing this." Philip stood, his 6-foot frame towering over me. "Hand over that camera. No more surveillance in my house." That night, I texted Valerie. They didn't believe me, said I was jealous and making everything up. Her response came within seconds. "Pack a bag. Stay here tomorrow night. We'll figure this out together." I never made it to Valerie's place. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I woke to searing, white-hot pain exploding in my abdomen, and Brandon standing over my bed, kitchen knife gripped in his hand, whispering, "I know what you're trying to do to me. It's not going to work. Jocelyn, I need you to walk me through it one more time," Detective Ramirez said, sitting in the uncomfortable vinyl chair beside my hospital bed 3 days later. His voice was gentle, but professional. "Take your time." I winced as I shifted position, the pain medication making everything feel distant and surreal. I woke up to Brandon stabbing me, right here. I gestured weakly to my bandaged left side. He said he knew what I was trying to do, that it wouldn't work. "And your parents' response?" "They're claiming I did it to myself, that I'm seeking attention because I'm jealous of Brandon." The words still felt like shards of glass in my throat. Detective Ramirez's weathered face showed carefully controlled anger. "Your mother actually laughed when we initially questioned them. Did you know that?" I closed my eyes. "That sounds about right." "Your stepdad suggested you have a documented history of dramatic, attention-seeking behavior. Care to comment on that?" Of course he did. Tears burned behind my eyelids. "Did you see the video footage I had? The one showing Brandon in my room?" "We did." "Your phone has been entered into evidence." He pulled out a small notepad. "That video, combined with your medical records and the location and depth of your wound, makes self-infliction virtually impossible. The angle alone would be extremely difficult to achieve." The door burst open and Valerie rushed in, mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Joss, they finally let me up. I've been in that waiting room for hours." She turned to Detective Ramirez. "Her stepbrother is dangerous. We have documented proof of his behavior." "We're building our case, Miss Rodriguez," he assured her calmly. "But we need more pieces. Jocelyn, has Brandon ever directly threatened you before this incident?" "Not in words, exactly. It was always subtle. Things would be moved in my room, items would disappear. That video showed him watching me sleep." I paused, remembering. "There was this one time about 2 months ago when he whispered, 'Be careful,' as he passed me in the hallway. Just those 2 words. But the way he said it—" "What about your parents? Any direct threats from them?" I shook my head weakly. "No threats. They just enable everything he does, defend every action, make me feel insane for questioning anything." Dr. Harper, my therapist, arrived next. I'd been seeing her since my biological father died in a construction accident 5 years ago. She carried a leather portfolio and wore her characteristic calm expression. "Jocelyn has absolutely no history of self-harm," she stated firmly to Detective Ramirez, getting straight to business. "In fact, she's been expressing serious concerns about her home environment for the past 8 months. Her anxiety levels have been steadily increasing." Detective Ramirez looked up from his notepad. "Dr. Harper, would you be willing to provide an official statement for our case file?" "Absolutely. Jocelyn's safety and well-being are my primary concerns. I've documented everything from our sessions." After they left, Valerie pulled her chair right up against my bed. "Your mom and Philip tried to visit earlier. The nurses blocked them at the station." "Good. I can't see them right now." "Joss, they were telling everyone in the waiting room that you did this to yourself. that you've always been jealous of Brandon since Linda remarried, that you're unstable. Rage, hot and sharp, cut through the medication fog. They're trying to control the story, make me the villain. Dr. Harper overheard them. That's why she came straight here to talk to Detective Ramirez. The next day, Detective Ramirez returned with another detective, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. I'm Detective Chen, she introduced herself. We've been conducting interviews at your school, Grant Valley High. Detective Ramirez continued. 3 of your classmates have come forward. 2 mentioned Brandon bragging about messing with you and watching you sleep. Apparently he thought it was impressive, something to boast about. Nausea rolled through me. He told people about that? To make himself look bold, from what we understand. Detective Chen's expression was grim. He also told a student named Tyler Simmons that he was taking your medication to sell. We found your sleep medication in his gym locker, along with items stolen from 4 other students. What are my parents saying now? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. The 2 detectives exchanged a meaningful look. They're still defending him, Detective Ramirez said carefully. Your mother actually suggested you planted the items in his locker to frame him. That's completely ridiculous. I've been in this hospital bed. We're aware their story has significant holes. Detective Chen pulled out her phone. We also have something else. The knife used in your attack was found in the outdoor garbage bin at your house. Brandon's fingerprints are all over the handle. So you're arresting him? Hope flickered in my chest for the first time. He's already in juvenile custody, Detective Ramirez confirmed. But Jocelyn, there's something else you should know. When we informed your parents about the arrest, they laughed, said the charges would never stick because you're known for fabricating stories. The hope died. They've chosen him. They've completely chosen his side. Their reaction has been thoroughly documented in our report, Detective Chen said. The district attorney finds it highly significant for the case. Dr. Harper returned later that afternoon, carrying a thick manila folder. I've compiled my complete session notes from the past 18 months. With your permission, Jocelyn, I'd like to submit these to the prosecution. I nodded without hesitation. Please. These notes document a clear pattern of concerning behavior in your home environment. Your increasing anxiety, sleep disturbances, and very specific fears about Brandon's escalating behavior patterns. It's all here. Time-stamped and dated. Detective Ramirez accepted the folder. This will strengthen our case considerably, Dr. Harper. Thank you. After everyone left, Valerie squeezed my hand. It's really happening, Joss. They're all going to face real consequences. For the first time since waking up with a knife in my side, I felt the smallest spark of hope taking root. 2 weeks crawled by before I was finally discharged from Clearwater Memorial Hospital. I went straight to stay with Valerie's family in their 3-bedroom ranch house in the suburbs. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following week, and Brandon remained in juvenile detention at the Riverside County facility. My parents had been calling obsessively, leaving voicemails that swung wildly between pleading and threatening. You need to drop these absolutely ridiculous charges, Philip's voice growled from my phone's speaker. You're destroying this family with your lies, Jocelyn? Do you understand what you're doing to your mother? Valerie shook her head as we listened in her bedroom. Your stepdad is legitimately unhinged. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Mom's number. Should I answer? I asked Valerie, my thumb hovering over the screen. Put it on speaker. I'll witness everything she says. I took a steadying breath and answered. Hello? Jocelyn, this has gone far enough. Mom's voice was tight, strained. You need to tell everyone the truth now. I am telling the truth. Brandon stabbed me with a kitchen knife. We both know that's not what really happened. Brandon would never hurt anyone. He's a good boy. Then how do you explain the knife with his fingerprints, the video of him in my room, the stolen medication in his locker at school? You're setting him up, Philip's voice boomed in the background. You've been jealous and vindictive since day one of this marriage. Philip, please, Mom said, then continued. Jocelyn, sweetie, Brandon made a mistake taking your things. He admits that much. But this stabbing accusation is going too far. You're ruining his entire future. A mistake? My voice rose despite myself. Mom, he stood over me while I slept. He stole my prescription medication. He stabbed me. I have a 7-inch wound and 43 stitches. We're willing to forgive you for all of this, she said, completely ignoring everything I just said. But you absolutely must drop these charges against Brandon. He's just a kid. Forgive me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not dropping anything. He belongs in custody. Philip's voice returned, louder and more aggressive. Listen here, you ungrateful little... No, you listen, I interrupted, surprising myself with my own firmness. Brandon stabbed me. You both defended him and accused me of lying about being attacked. I'm done with all of you. Jocelyn, please. Mom's voice softened, trying a different tactic. Brandon's entire future is at stake here. His college prospects, his reputation. He's your brother. Stepbrother, and he should have considered his future before he put a knife in my side. He says he didn't do it. He swears he didn't. Why won't you believe your own brother? The same reason you won't believe your own daughter, I guess. Philip grabbed the phone back. You'll regret this, Jocelyn. When this is all over and the truth comes out, don't you dare expect to come back to this house. Is that a threat, Philip? Valerie interjected loudly. Because I'm recording this entire call on my laptop. Brief silence, then Mom's voice, weaker now. We just want our family back together. That's all we want. You chose your family, Mom, and apparently it doesn't include me anymore. I ended the call, my hands shaking. The following Tuesday, we arrived at the Jefferson County Courthouse. The building was imposing, all marble columns and heavy oak doors. Brandon was brought in wearing an orange juvenile detention uniform that seemed too big for his frame. He looked smaller somehow, less intimidating. When he spotted me in the hallway, his expression transformed into pure hatred. Jocelyn, he called out as the guards led him past. Tell them the truth. Tell everyone you did this to yourself for attention. Detective Ramirez stepped between us immediately. Keep moving, son. You're ruining my entire life, Brandon shouted, his voice echoing off the marble walls. Mom and Dad know you're lying. Everyone knows. I have the scars to prove I'm not, I replied calmly, though my heart hammered against my ribs. His face contorted with rage. You'll pay for this when I get out. You'll regret everything. Is that a threat? Detective Ramirez interrupted sharply, signaling to the guards. Did everyone hear that? I didn't mean it like that. Brandon backpedaled quickly, fear finally showing in his eyes. I just meant, save it for the judge, Detective Ramirez said firmly. My parents arrived moments later, walking right past me without making eye contact. Mom wore her navy church dress. Philip wore his only suit. Inside the courtroom, Brandon's attorney, a sharp-dressed public defender named Mr. Castellano, tried to paint me as unstable and attention-seeking. He brought up my therapy sessions after my father's death, twisted my grief into something manipulative. Then the prosecutor, Assistant DA Janet Morrison, presented the evidence. The video footage of Brandon in my room, the knife with his fingerprints, testimony from Tyler Simmons and other classmates about Brandon's bragging, my medical records showing the severity and angle of the wound, Dr. Harper's detailed session notes documenting months of escalating fear. When Brandon took the stand, everything fell apart for him. I didn't mean to hurt her, he said, his voice cracking. I was just trying to scare her into stopping with those recordings and accusations. She was trying to get me in trouble with my dad. The courtroom went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Mr. Castellano looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. So, you admit to stabbing Jocelyn Morris? Ms. Morrison asked calmly, though I could see the fire in her eyes. Brandon looked desperately at his parents in the gallery, then back at the prosecutor. It was supposed to be just a warning. I didn't push the knife in deep. She's making it sound way worse than it was. As they led Brandon away in handcuffs, my mother finally caught my eye. Her expression had changed from dismissal to something else entirely. Fear. Raw, undeniable fear. All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Catherine Brennan presiding. 3 months had passed since that preliminary hearing. The seasons had changed from summer to fall. Brandon had been formally charged as a juvenile with assault with a deadly weapon and multiple counts of theft. My parents faced charges of child endangerment and obstruction of justice for their attempts to cover up the attack and discredit my testimony. I sat between Valerie and Dr. Harper in the courtroom, trying to keep my breathing steady. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Before I announce sentencing," Judge Brennan said, looking directly at Brandon with steel in her eyes, "I want to address the severity of what we've witnessed in this case. What began as invasion of privacy escalated to theft, stalking, and ultimately a violent attack on a vulnerable family member." Brandon stared at the floor, his orange jumpsuit a stark reminder of where his choices had led. "To the parents," she continued, turning her gaze to my mother and Philip, "your failure to protect one child while actively enabling the destructive and dangerous behavior of another is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this entire case." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a crumpled tissue. Philip's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. "Jocelyn Morris." Judge Brennan addressed me directly, and I straightened in my seat. "This court recognizes your remarkable courage in pursuing justice despite facing disbelief, mockery, and betrayal from the very people who should have protected you." I nodded, fighting back tears that threatened to spill over. "Brandon Patterson, please rise for sentencing." Brandon stood on shaky legs, his public defender beside him. "For the charge of assault with a deadly weapon," Judge Brennan's voice rang clear through the courtroom, "this court sentences you to juvenile detention until you reach the age of 21, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will complete mandatory anger management therapy, intensive counseling, and substance abuse programs. Additionally, a permanent restraining order will be issued prohibiting any contact with Jocelyn Morris for the rest of your life." Brandon's shoulders slumped as the reality crashed over him. His mother let out a small sob from the gallery. "Linda and Philip Patterson, please rise." My mother and stepfather stood, both looking significantly older than they had 3 months ago. "For child endangerment and obstruction of justice, you are each sentenced to 18 months of supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory parenting classes. You will have no contact with Jocelyn Morris unless she explicitly initiates it. This court also orders you to pay all of Jocelyn's medical expenses, therapy costs, and pain and suffering damages." Judge Brennan paused, then leaned forward. "Let me be absolutely clear. Your laughter and complete dismissal of a violent attack on your daughter was unconscionable. Your attempts to manipulate the narrative and protect your son at her expense was reprehensible. This court finds your behavior as parents to be morally bankrupt." The gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent courtroom. After the sentencing, my mother approached me in the marble hallway outside, Philip trailing behind her like a shadow. "Jocelyn, please," she began, her voice breaking. "We were wrong. We see that now. We made terrible mistakes." "It's a little late for that revelation, don't you think?" I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We're your parents. We made horrible mistakes, but we do love you. We've always loved you." "Love," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You chose Brandon over me at every single turn. You laughed when I was lying in a hospital bed with a knife wound. That's not love, Mom." "We didn't understand the situation. We didn't see clearly. You understood perfectly. You just didn't care about me. Philip stepped forward, his expression almost pleading. Jocelyn, we're still family. We can work through this together if you just… No, Philip. We're not family anymore. You made that decision final when you threatened me for reporting what Brandon did. What can we do? My mother's voice broke completely. How can we possibly make this right with you? You can't. Some things are broken beyond repair. Some betrayals don't get forgiven with apologies. I turned and walked away, Valerie immediately at my side. That evening we gathered at the Riverside Diner, the same booth where this nightmare had really begun months ago. Me, Valerie, Detective Ramirez, and Dr. Harper. A small celebration dinner that felt surreal. To Jocelyn, Detective Ramirez raised his glass of water. One of the bravest young women I've had the privilege of working with. I don't feel brave most days, I admitted quietly. Mostly I just feel broken and damaged. Healing isn't a straight line, Dr. Harper said gently, her therapist voice warm and familiar. But you're already showing remarkable resilience. You should be proud of yourself. What happens now? Valerie asked, stealing a fry from my plate like she always did. With Linda and Philip? Nothing. That chapter is closed permanently. I took a deep breath, feeling it settle in my chest. I'm focusing on college applications now. My dad's life insurance policy will cover tuition at any state school. You're going to thrive, Jocelyn, Dr. Harper said with certainty. This experience is part of your story, but it absolutely does not define who you are. Detective Ramirez nodded, setting down his coffee. And your testimony in this case might help other kids in similar situations. It's already being cited in training materials. I looked around at the people sitting in this booth, the people who had believed me, supported me, fought for me, and helped me find justice when my own family wouldn't. These were my real family now. Do you think sharing your story publicly might help others? Valerie asked carefully. I mean, when you're ready, no pressure. I considered this, watching the condensation slide down my water glass. Maybe someday, when I've healed more, when I'm ready. No pressure at all, Dr. Harper assured me. But your voice is incredibly powerful, Jocelyn. Remember that. As we finished our meal, burgers and fries and pie, comfort food that actually brought comfort, I felt something I hadn't experienced in what seemed like forever. Peace. Actual, genuine peace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. I knew that, but for the first time I could see beyond the betrayal, beyond the pain. I could see a future. Have you thought about what you want to study in college? Detective Ramirez asked, breaking into my thoughts. Criminal justice, I replied without hesitation. Maybe social work too. I want to help people like me, people who need someone to believe them when everyone else won't. Valerie squeezed my hand under the table. As we left the diner that night, the autumn air crisp and clean, I realized something important. My family had tried to destroy me to protect a lie. But I had survived. I had found justice. And I had discovered that family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up when your world is falling apart. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own safety? What would you have done in my position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, if you're in a situation like mine, speak up. Someone will believe you. Keep speaking until they do.